Thank you so much, and salam to everybody, particularly my Afghan counterparts. Just to let you know, yes, correctly, as Essen said, I am heading the Center for Middle East and Africa, but it also includes Afghanistan. It's an area that has been very close to my heart. I personally am from the Mumand Agency. I obviously don't look like a Pathan, and my Afghan counterparts usually question, whether I do belong from Mumand or not. But for all my Pashtun fellows, Pakhair, Tol Tik Tak hai. And before I start, let me just say that Afghanistan is a very important area, and it's very close to, I think, every Pakistani's heart. Despite the hurdles that continue to exist, this is something that exists, and I think this is something that needs to be appreciated. Now, let me just begin by saying that, one has to call a spade in a spade. And while Pakistan's policy, I do admit, has been vague in the past, there is, let me assure my Afghan brethren, that there is a clear and conscious awareness amongst policymakers in Pakistan that, we need to re-establish our ties with Afghanistan and with all the different political factions. We need to reach out to them and assure them of our trust. Now, this might sound like a cliche because we've heard it more than once, but Pakistan really does have the most to gain from peace and stability in Afghanistan. And at the same time, it has the most to lose from instability in Afghanistan. And I think we have personally witnessed this in one form or another. And similarly, this applies to the Afghans as well, that they have immense to gain from a good relationship with Pakistan. Now, unfortunately, the one aspect of the Pak-Afghan relationship that has saddened me is that focus is always laid on the negative aspects of the relationship. And very little attention is given to the positives that do exist. Now, I'm not denying that, there are no issues, because yes, there are a number of irritants between the countries and we get to see them on a daily basis. But, I think it is very important to focus, particularly in this time and day, on the positives. Hence, instead of focusing on the history of mistrust, why can't we focus on, again, the positives? And as I think Niamatullah mentioned, and so did the previous speaker, the shared history, the culture, the religion, importantly, the shared history of growing up together. Now, look, we're living, in a time where refugees are looked upon with immense hate. Look at what's happening in Europe and other parts of the world. So let us reflect on the relationship that has existed between us and our Afghan brethren, which, by the way, has lasted for more than 4 decades. We've had these two communities, the Pakistanis and the Afghans, living together side by side. And I think this is something that needs to be appreciated and celebrated. To be quite honest with you, I think Kabul and Islamabad has taken the Pak-Afghan relationship for granted. This relationship, it needs to be revived on the lines of our forefathers, where both countries viewed each other as brothers. And again, I will quote Niamatullah, who said that, we have so many innumerable commonalities and linkages that cannot be broken. These linkages, as I keep on reiterating, need to be celebrated. And remember what Hamid Karzai said, we are conjoined twins. And I think these are not just words, they actually need to sink in, and we need to appreciate this. Now, having said all this, this is, I think, where the role of the youth comes in. The youth, as future leaders, as I'd like to refer to you as, you have a responsibility to chalk out a future for yourselves. And it is important to remember that no country can do this in isolation. This is important to understand that countries need one another. And hence, Pakistan and Afghanistan, despite those that are oppose this notion, these two countries need each other for peace and stability, not only for each other's countries, but as well as for the entire region. So as future leaders, it is your job now. You need to think rationally. You need to think independently. Now, at the end of the day, we are all patriots, and we all, unfortunately, buy into and we rely so much on state narratives. But you see, state narratives are always vested in particular interests. And therefore, I think you as youth need to carve out your own narratives, your own perceptions. And you need to stop viewing each other as the other, but as your own. Now, again, I'll come back to the irritants that, yes, there are several irritants, several bilateral issues between Pakistan and Afghanistan that need to be resolved. And, I do hear them on a daily basis, as has been mentioned by the previous speakers. such border issues, visas, the refugees, the list goes on. But let me just assure my Afghan brethren that, the government is aware of these issues and they are working on it. And, by appointing Ambassador Sadiq, by the way, who, for the first time, Pakistan has appointed this representative to deal with the relationship, is historic and it needs to be appreciated. And, things are going to move in a positive direction, but it needs patience from both sides. So let's not allow the irritants to create further hurdles. Now, as youth, your role is not limited to politics. That as future leaders, you're going to be in, the bureaucracy, you're going to be in the government, you're going to be in trade, all sorts of fields. Hence, the relationship with Pakistan should be multifaceted. It should not be just focused on politics. And I feel this is one of the weaknesses in the Pak-Afghan relationship, where everything has been viewed through a limited lens. And that is why, as youth, you need to expand this relationship. And again, as youth, you can play an immense role in bridging the gap, and at the same time, you can, play a negative role in widening the gap. The choice is yours. And here, I think the Afghan Youth Forum is a perfect platform for both sides to get together, to communicate, because at the end of the day, it is through only dialogue and interaction where you will be able to understand each other and appreciate each other. And remember, you don't necessarily have to agree on everything, but the fact that you're engaging and listening to one another is very, very important. Here, as coming from an academic background, I think it is pivotal that Pakistanis and the Afghans, they collaborate academically. There is very, very little focus on this. Yes, we have a number of students in Pakistan, but that's not enough. And therefore we need, institutional linkages. And again, I say that the Institute of Strategic Studies, we welcome, our Afghan counterparts to come to collaborate with us, whether it's research or even having internships. We're more than welcome to that, because I truly feel that it is only through academic engagement where you'll be able to overcome the differences. Lastly, I will just say that, it is easier said than done. There's a long history of mistrust between, the Afghans and the Pakistanis, but, you can't keep on living in the past. You have to move forward. So, instead of focusing on petty politics, as future leaders, again, I will say that it is your responsibility as the youth to, move beyond the past, and honor the legacy of your forefathers, who contributed to a very positive relationship in the 80s, where both countries viewed each other with compassion and commonalities and not with differences. And again, I feel that the Afghan Youth Forum could play an immense role in bridging this gap. But again, it is a forum and it needs to be run by the youth of both sides. And the onus is on the youth. So I'll end here. Thank you.